Let me introduce our speaker for the day, Lalit Bhatt. Lalit is our Chief Technology Officer at Entytle and oversees our artificial intelligence and machine learning offerings. He has a passion for all things data as well as all things installed base. Lalit has almost 3 decades of experience working with and for industrials, including Ingersoll, Siemens, and a list of IT engineering companies. So he's been on both sides of the aisle. He understands the business aspects as well as the technology aspects. He's been a big proponent of using data and AI/ML to solve industrial sales challenges. At Entytle, he's dedicated to developing the best industrial algorithms that we can offer to fix data quality issues and to generate the right insights that drive aftermarket and services growth. He's super active on LinkedIn, by the way, and you can typically find him talking about ChatGPT these days. He has a very humorous take on all things AI. So with that, over to you, Lalit.
Thanks, DJ. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whichever part of the world you are. So today's topic is installed base aftermarket selling with analytics and AI. But what we will try to do in today's topic, considering that like it's a very short session, I'll try to put a framework in place which we will help whoever wants to do a more data-driven approach to anything. And here, like today, our main focus is basically how we can improve aftermarket selling based on the installed base that is already sitting out in the market. So we will try to develop a high-level framework, a high-level understanding of what are the different pieces into that one. And once done correctly, what are the upsides and what are the returns on that kind of investment and that kind of approach. So I'm sure like everyone would have been hearing about ChatGPT nowadays, and I'm sure many of you would have been using it for your day-to-day purpose. But the more important, interesting thing to understand about AI is a couple of things that with AI, there would be some events that would shift the things completely. We have seen that even like it has not spared someone like Google at this point of time. And we will see the same events happening in different places in different parts of the world. But it doesn't mean that we need to get scared with that one. We need to, what we call is that like, make it a good friend and it can do wonders for you as well. So what we'll do is that we'll like a little bit more focus on the problem in hand that we are focusing on today, which is like installed base aftermarket selling. And what we have seen like working with so many customers right now, still it's like considering that like these are very big companies, the selling aspect of that one we still see is very, very reactive. What it means is that basically someone is sitting with a phone and just wait for someone to call back and say that, hey, I need this part or this service or those kind of things. But essentially, it's a very, very reactive kind of thing. And what Entitle's the vision is to make this whole aftermarket selling very proactive. And how we do it, it's basically a lot of focus being given to the whole data and the analytics and the AI part of the things. So we have also developed some sort of framework. I would just suggest like the slide is out there in the front, just try to figure out where you sit in that journey basically. But the extremes of the journey are like at one end where we call the level 1, it's more like a reactive kind of approach, to level 4 kind of thing where the things are very, very proactive, very data driven. And even it doesn't even goes like you just don't even wait for the things, but you look into data patterns and even try to predict and even prescribe that where the needs would be, which customer would be needing which kind of parts or which kind of service contracts. And this is actually freely available on website, so feel free. You can always go there and download this, and you can assess yourself. So now let's come back to our aftermarket use cases. What really in the aftermarket selling that we are looking for as a sales leader, as a salesperson. So basically what we want to do is that sell more parts, sell more services, sell more contracts. But there are other important aspects of the thing as well. For example, like we want to stop the churn. We want to retain our customers. We want to find opportunity where we can upsell the things, we can cross-sell the things. And then of course, like there are issues around slow moving inventories and all those things. And then effective marketing and sales campaigns. And how typically organizations have been approaching that. I'm sure many of you would have been doing some pieces of it, maybe in the maturity cycle. Different people, different organizations are at different level, and we hear a lot about data lakes and things like that. But essentially, it's a mix of like a lot of third-party tools like BI tools, or people even write scripts internally, or there are a lot of spreadsheets floating around. And it's like what you called as like a mishmash of like people, processes, technology, and tools, because then there is a lot of that change management aspect of the things that comes into picture. So before we jump into AI, the one thing that I really want to emphasize is that AI and analytics at the end of the day is about having data. And it's about having clean data. And that is one of the most important aspect of the things. I'm sure many of you would be able to relate this, that generally in organizations, and that's what we have seen also as part of our engagements with many big manufacturing companies, that usually like you see multiple ERP systems, multiple service management systems, multiple CRMs, which might even come from like because of mergers and acquisitions. But essentially what it leads to is that there is a complete data mess. There are silos, the data are not talking to each other. And what it leads to is not able to take good decisions, or decisions which can impact the ROIs basically. And of course, like a lot of these companies, they have like this, the data is of all kinds, like it's dirty. It's not only dirty, but it's very usually very huge in quantity, because the companies, like they are there for decades and centuries, in fact. So the data they would be lying with them would be like lot of machine data, a lot of installed base data that is sitting in their systems. But having said that, let me also say this, that this data is actually a gold mine if it can be harnessed properly. And that's the key to get to a data-driven decision kind of approach. And any AI and analytics would basically, I would say that like whatever I have seen, it's like if your data, it's again like the garbage in a garbage out kind of thing. But I don't know, if I just try to put a number, it's like 60-70% of your job is done if you are able to get your data clean and put it at one place. All your AI and analytics algorithms would start really giving very good results. But generally, how do we approach the data? So this is typically what we have seen. What happens, there are multiple tools that are put into place, and we somehow try to integrate them. And there are like, but of course, like it has its own downside. It has its own problems with trying to bring and stitch the whole solution together, because it takes time and money, and there are like various kind of skill sets that are needed. So now what we will try to do is that, like having set the problem statement in place, what I want to do is that try to put a framework in place that if you want to attempt this one, what is a way to approach it? So usually what I would say that if you can see the slide here, I would say that the most important thing is, of course, like on the left-hand side is usually the state of the facts, that how the things are. But I would also say that I think it's very important to understand that from the right-hand side, what you are trying to achieve. And based on that one, it's very important that you come up with, so for example, like if you have to now bring 5 data from 5 systems together, you need to be very clear that how that data would look like once you take it through the journey. And how that journey would look like, of course, like you want to clean the data first. And cleaning would means like there are those standard things in terms of missing values and all those things. But there is also like a very important aspect of cleaning, which is deduplication, which we see usually is a very big challenge in the organizations. And deduplication needs like a different kind of skill set to solve it, but it's very important. We have even seen, like, for example, like we were doing one part catalog cleanup for one of our customers, and we figured out that there was at least one part, though it's like not a very generic situation, but we saw that there's like 70 different kind of names and references, and that's how that part was being present in their system. So just imagine, like if you have the same part being named as like 10 different ways, and if you're able to bring it together, it not only cleans up your data, but also it makes your data rich. And it helps in your AI and analytics as well, because then you are able to build more richer patterns when the data is dense around a particular part or equipment. Then just like then of course, like what you do is that once you do the cleaning and the deduplications, then you really want to stitch them. What stitching basically means is, like, for example, your equipment data would be sitting in maybe on ERP, but there would be some customer data or some latest data would be sitting in CRMs. There would be some data points sitting in services. But then you need to bring everything together and create a unified picture of your complete data. We call it a single source of truth. There is another, like, master data management. It goes with other names as well, but essentially what it means is that it's the single source of truth. It's a place where you know that which the data that you can rely on, and it has been deduplicated, it has been cleaned. Once that is in place, then what you want to do next, because I think at the end of the day, is the business value that we want to get from our data. Just doing data cleaning and putting them in a data model is a means in itself. It's not an end in itself. So that's where the whole AI and analytics come into picture, that now you want to understand your customer base in a much better way, so that you can target the right customers, you can do better account plannings, you can make the even right offers, looking at the transaction histories in the past, at what price point they have purchased, what are the price points that other similar customer are purchasing, and then of course, like, how you can increase the customer loyalty. Because if you're able to, even like just an example, like if same customer, if you're able to bring all the transactions history together, it also gives you a much better view and much better you can actually create much better deals for them. So I hope, like, this is making sense. So what we have done till now is that we have brought it to a point where our data is ready as part of the framework. And now what specific things you can do out of that one? Of course, like, there are the things that possible are endless here, but we are just touching on some of the things, the high level AI and analytics, which really helps in engaging with the customer base in a big way. So what happens is that right now, without this approach and being a reactive approach, it's usually like organizations usually are just focused on their top 10% customers, or maybe 15%, or customers who are just calling them. There is a long tail of customers that always get missed in this whole huge data and not clean data kind of thing. But once you have put the data in place, then you can really start looking into the whole long tail as well. So the visibility matters here, because now all of your customers would be all the data points would be very, very easily accessible to you. And then you can actually start combining them in multiple different ways. You can segment them, you can cluster them, you can cluster based on, let's say, the revenue sizes, or you can cluster them on the geography, or you can even cluster them or segment them on something which is very, very unique. For example, certain product lines, or a certain very specific aspect of your business. But then what it happens is that it now gives you a set of customers whom you can treat in a very uniform way, because you know that if the customer is of this type, we need to handle them or approach them in certain way. And then once you have a playbook which you know that works for that kind of customer, you can easily replay that playbook with the same set of customers across your customer base. Then the other things is, of course, like, we all want to have more leads and opportunities. And once you have all your data in place, once you have all the transaction history in place, it becomes much, much easier to look into the data patterns, the buying patterns. And then you can also figure out that, okay, I know that this customer has this equipment and is buying our parts and services from us. But I see this other customer, this looks almost similar to this customer, but they are not buying anything from us. So this is something like, these are the kinds of leads and opportunities that would start getting surfaced once we are able to put this whole data story together and we are able to run our algorithms. And of course, like, you can apply multiple techniques out there. Phenomenological is more about, like, it is writing your own algorithm in a way that is very, very attuned to your particular business use case. Then there you can, of course, use regressions and neural networks and things like that. But again, I would again emphasize that make sure your data is clean. And these all things can do wonders for you. And then of course, like home to call, it's like that, for example, like once you go through all the data point, you might start, say, surfacing 50 or 100 contacts from a customer, but you can't really go and start calling each one. That's not a good ROI, a good investment of time. So what the AI techniques can also help you, they can look into the like employee classification techniques or clustering techniques or even collaborative filtering, that which are the contacts that you really should talk to, maybe top 3, top 5, where the conversion probabilities are much higher. And that's where this whole techniques can help you out. Of course, again, I would emphasize, once your data is in place. And these are huge cases. I'll not go through them in detail, but these are some of the things, some of the areas that we have seen that really helps different organizations in different ways once they are able to put this whole the whole framework in place. And one more caution I want to do, like generally what happens is that when we start to want to do AI and analytics, we feel that, okay, like this is the thing, this will change the complete everything for us. But it doesn't happen that way. There is, of course, like a big journey that you need to do. And usually it's always a good idea that start with simple, don't boil the complete ocean, start some pieces. Maybe usually what we do is start with some small divisions, make sure that we get a handle on that one, but try to create a initial playbook which is successful. Then it becomes much easier to replicate them across the organization. And then it can help you in a big way. Like you can even go to the prescriptive part of the things where you can even start figuring out that, okay, should we approach this customer, or it will say that, okay, go to this customer because we think that there would be this person might be interested in this parts or this service opportunities. And even you can attach probabilities with them. Probabilities help you out in basically prioritizing your resources. So for example, if there are 5 salespeople and 50 opportunities, you may not want to go and hit everyone. Then that's where this whole probabilities come in, help us out, because then you can really prioritize that which top 5 or top 10 based on the bandwidth of the people you want to really hit. So yeah, I guess the whole idea is about like making this whole selling process from a reactive to a proactive, making sure that you are able to look into the complete tail, the long tail of your customer base. You are able to surface opportunities, and even you are able to figure out that inside that customer organization, who are the right people to whom to reach to. And there are, of course, like many other things, slow moving parts and all those things, which I have not touched on. We just wanted to make sure that we try to bring this whole framework in place, that how you can approach this whole data-driven selling of aftermarket on your installed base. So yeah, DJ, I think probably that's the presentation part of the things stopped here. Yeah,
just in time. Thank you for completing this within the allocated 20 minutes. We did get 2 questions that came in, folks. So attendees on the call, feel free to ask any questions that you might have, or if you require additional clarity, additional details, you can always connect with Lalit Bhatt, or you can scan this QR code with your mobile phone right now and go to entitled.com and drop us a message. Of course, we also have a free trial for our upcoming personal edition. Open registrations are open at the moment, so feel free to make use of that as well. So Lalit, I have 2 questions that came in. There's not a lot of context to the question, but let me see. It says, how long does it takes? I think they meant how long it takes to run a data cleansing project. This must be in reference to what you spoke about earlier.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So data cleansing project, of course, like it's a function of the amount of data you have got and how bad is the data. So how bad is the data? Usually there are profiling tools which can help you out to figure out that how bad is the data in terms of missing values, in terms of the uniqueness criteria, in terms of outliers. Once you get this handle in place, then I think it becomes much easier. But yes, of course, like there are different ways to do that one. There are people who try to do like in-house kind of thing with like a lot of tools and these things in place, and it's a volume of data that basically defines that one. And again, as the volume of data increases, actually the effort increases exponentially. It's not a linear increase because the complexity, the dimensions started increasing exponentially in the same way. But yes, what we have done in Entytle is that, like, to help our customers, we have put everything together. We have sort of merged all these people, processes, and technologies in such a way as part of the platform that we have been able to clean, I would say, like a couple of 100 millions of data records, even in like 7-8 weeks kind of time frame. And we are able to bring it to a unified data model. So hopefully, TJ, that answers the question.
Yeah, a corollary to that, Lalit, and this is me, asking this from you. What kind of resources does a typical OEM need to provide from their end to get all of this data going? What kind of people need to get involved?
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting question. So the couple of skill set that comes on top of my mind is that you definitely need people who understand how to handle this big data. You might yourself have noticed that sometimes if you have to move like say 50 gig or 100 gig of files, it's not easy, even though we have the technologies in place. And here you're talking about terabytes of data at time. So you need people, engineering resources kind of mind, who knows how to move these kind of data at scale from one system to another system. Because when you want to do something with that one, you need to move them between system and system. Then someone need to understand this whole technical architecture in place. Then you need people who also understand the domain, because data without domain is just bits and bytes. It doesn't make any sense. Someone has to make sense of them, that okay, this data point means this thing and this is related to other data point in certain way. Then you would definitely need that's where the things come into picture, because data at a scale, it's not easy to do it manually. So you have to put like a lot of analytics and AI kind of scripts in place for deduplication and all those stuff. Then you start getting into like all this data science kind of resources. Once that whole thing is placed, then you have to put it in a data model with what we call is like an ML ops as well, machine learning operations. So similar to DevOps, but it's like how to run ML algorithms and scale kind of thing. Need that kind of skill sets, and of course like the data science and all those folks.
That's a lot of complexity hidden behind the scenes, Lalit.
Yeah.
For those of us like who are not from this data background, this can sound overwhelming. Okay, the next one is the next question came in from Himanshi, and she's asking, how is this different than Power BI? I believe they're trying to make a comparison with business intelligence tools. Yeah.
So let's understand what Power BI does. So Power AI is basically once you point it to a data store, it can run analytics for you. It can run reports for you in terms of analytics and all those things, and basically create dashboards, which it is pretty good in that one. And but what we do is that we actually someone has to create that data store before it becomes meaningful. And that's where we spend a lot of time. We bring the data into a unified data model, industrial purpose-built industrial OEM data models, so that starts making sense of them. Then the other thing is that there's like a lot of AI algorithms and all those things that we run on top of them to surface a lot of analysis. And it's like that we also do dashboarding because at the end of the day, you give those results in terms of the dashboard. But before you bring it to the dashboard level, before you draw a chart, there is a journey that the whole data points, the whole data models, that journey need to be taken in place before it starts making sense. And it is what you call like, it is accurate as well.
Perfect. Lalit, so would it be appropriate to summarize that a business intelligence tool complements what we do?
Yeah.
Perfect. And it reminds me of this old adage I think we all learned in engineering, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So if the data is poor, then no matter what you do, the fanciest of visualizations using Power BI or any other tool out there, it's going to produce garbage results. And that's it. And I think we need to.
Yeah, that's what we call the gospel of the data engineering.
Awesome. That's something I knew I learned today. Okay. All right. So I think those are the questions that we had. If anyone, would like to go ahead and ask any more questions, please go for it. We'll take a pause for a couple of seconds. If not, then thank you so much for joining in today. We'll make sure that we get this recording out to you. In case it doesn't reach you, please feel free to write to us at info@entitled.com, and we'll make sure that we get the recording out to you. But also, we're going to post this recording on social media. We'll also tag Lalit Bhatt there. So in case you need to get in touch with him and you have a question that you'd like to ask him directly, feel free. He's super active on LinkedIn, so he's almost always available. All right, Lalit, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks once again. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Vijay. Thanks everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.